So Spam actually is created by the Hormel company, and they started up in 1891, I believe. And it's a family company. The Hormel brothers are to your left, and this is their first team that they worked with. And they were from Austin, Minnesota. So if you actually go to Austin, Minnesota now, there's like a whole Spam museum you can visit. So Spam, they came up with a little later, like right before the Great Depression. And during the Great Depression, it became a hit because meat was scarce, and you don't need to refrigerate Spam. It's stackable, it's convenient. So it got popular then. This is Jay Hormel. This is like the grandson, the person who started it, and he was kind of like the big marketing genius behind Hormel. So what is Spam, right? A lot of people think it's this mystery meat. You asked what if it's actually fully meat. So if you actually look at the can, it's pork with ham, and specifically the shoulder pork. And they added potato starch in the 2000s to kind of hide the gelatinous layer that used to form in the can. And sodium nitrite to keep the meat red, which any like processed meat will have. It's a salt, and water and salt. So it's pretty simple. The ingredients haven't really changed since it was first formed, and Spam actually, do people know what it stands for? Okay, so it actually, do you have any guesses? Okay, so that's a good guess. Spiced ham, okay, that's also one of them. So Spam doesn't actually officially stand for anything. It's capitalized, well, because it was originally on the can was capitalized, but later on Hormel tried to trademark it, and they couldn't because of internet spam. And spam is also like a genericized term for luncheon meat, any canned meat. So all capitalized spam is trademark, and differentiates that from the other uses. And specially processed American meat and spiced ham or shoulder pork with ham, right? Of the shoulder pork. Those are all backronyms. Those are all things that people think it stands for, and so commonly people refer to it that way. There's also special army meat, which I'll go into for why that is. And I chose the title specially processed American meat, right? Because it's a play on that backronym, and I'm using Spam as a way to talk about the Asian American identity, which I'll go into. Speedy ham? Yeah, maybe because you're energized after. I don't know. So this is the original marketing for Spam. It was known as this new miracle meat, really convenient for housewives to cook for the family, and it was kind of known as this like really forward-thinking food product because, you know, processed food used to not have a bad name. When it first came out, people thought it was like the future, and actually almost preferred processed food over raw foods because they thought that it was like more high-tech, right? Which is very different now. And also it was known as this patriotic product because actually over 150 million pounds of Spam was bought by the US military during World War II. And a lot of the soldiers ate it. It was part of their pay rations, which is like emergency rations. And so this ad is kind of referring to, you know, if your grocer runs out of Spam, it's because Hormel's feeding our troops abroad, and, you know, this is your way to support your troops. And these are just some photos I found of soldiers having Spam. You know, soldiers had so much. I guess this one was coined Spamville, this army base. And also after World War II, the female veterans that came back were hired by Hormel because initially, you know, in America, when men were drafted for the war, women were working in factories, but when the men came back, they were promised their jobs. So all these women got unemployed, and then Hormel thought, okay, what is one way we can still employ women and still have that patriotic brand? And Jay Hormel was the marketing genius, and he's like, let's hire female veterans who are also musicians, and that they can tour the country and sing and dance and play music, all in the love of Spam. So the music that you heard before, that old like 40s music that you heard, is actually from the Hormel girls. So yeah, they were all female veterans, and they were actually part of the first all-female drum and bugle corps, competitive bugle corps, and they were like they made it to the finals, and they were very well paid. It was a pretty impressive job to have for the time, especially, and a lot of the time they were like the breadwinners of the household, which was kind of crazy. But with the caveat that you couldn't get married. Once you got married, you'd not be one anymore. They'd go be housewives or whatever they had to be. And there was one African American Hormel girl, but because of course like the time and primarily they were Caucasian. They also had a hit radio show, full orchestra. So when they would go into towns, they'd also have these stage shows. So these are some newspaper ads. The one on the left says, there are prizes for Hormel Day. They'd come in these white caravans and parade through the street and then enter your supermarket, and there would be this identity card, newspaper that would say, if you find me, then you say a secret word or whatever it is, and I can give you like this prize. So people would cut out this identity card from the newspaper and bring it to the supermarket looking for this Hormel girl so they can win a prize. This is all this big marketing scheme. So this is a Hormel girl selling Hormel products. And this is a clip of Hormel girl. Here's some.
You are tuned to Jack Singer Cable Vision.
This is some footage of their programming.
There's still time, folks, to order the finest ham for your Christmas dinner. The 6 3/4 pound size Hormel canned ham with enough beef for 20, or the quarter size ham for 5.
Right. So you get the picture. And they would do the show, and they were active until I believe the early 1950s. That's when the advent of television came about, and they had a very, very short stint in TV, and then worked to rest. But as a radio show, they were in for a long time.
Funny because I know Mr. Bear and their hot dog car is like the public meat processed meat like community outreach marketing, but I guess Hormel was first.
Oh yeah, no, this was. Hormel kind of pioneered a lot of food marketing to this level. I mean, I don't think I can name anything as extensive to this day that's, they had a stage show, they had a radio show, they were competitive drum and bugle corps, they'd have street parades. I mean, they were really hardworking. So it's pretty nutty. And all the sound you found before was from a professor of music and she actually forwarded me all of the original digitized reports she had, and she had interviewed a lot of the women who were now, aging out. I think there's still a lot living, and then there's by the Spam Museum, there's a historic house from where the Hormel factory used to be, and so I know that one of the Hormel girls still performs there every year. But yeah, it's an interesting history that a lot of people don't know about. Yeah. So why do people hate Spam then, right? It's this miracle meat, it's so cool, it's all American, super patriotic. Why do we hate it? Does anyone here, what bad things have you heard about Spam? I'm sure you have.
It's just scary when you
Huh?
It's just a little scary when you last for that long, right?
Okay, it's scary that it can last for that long.
Garbage meat.
Garbage
Just
meat.
like everything off the cutting room floor.
Right. Yeah. Which now you know is not true. Actually, hot dogs are a lot weirder than Spam if you think about it without the same kind of stigma. So the reason why people don't like Spam is because Americans and people in the West just ate it way too much. During the Great Depression, it was like the meat that everyone relied on. So if you know the Monty Python skit of Spam, do you people know what I'm talking about? So that's actually, it's a skit where people are trying to dine in this restaurant and order breakfast, but everything on the menu has Spam, and the restaurateur refuses to serve anything without Spam. And the diner gets, the person who's eating gets very, very frustrated. But that's kind of a reflection on how people felt about it. They were just like, enough of this, like, I don't want to eat this anymore. But it's really because it was a hit, you know? And after the soldiers came back, because it was part of their war rations, a lot of people just associated with hardship. And that's why. And so this is like a ration book, and this is a Spam can during wartime, when it was black and white just to conserve resources. So you would get, like a little stamp to bring it to your grocer, and you'd have, X amount of stamps for certain supplies that you would need. And the reason why in Europe, a lot of people got sick of it, like in the UK especially, like food rationing was even stricter than it was in the US. So people just ate that much more Spam there. And our allies got it too. So that 150 million pounds, a lot of it went to our allies. So the Soviet Union, in China also, and the UK. So then Spam advertising gets very, it has to be adjusted. People don't think it's the miracle meat. People aren't impressed. So then they're like, well, it's very cheap. Spam gives you 7 meats for the price of 1. So then it becomes associated with poverty, right? And that's why I think you might hear that Spam is like poor people meat, poor people food. But luckily Asia comes in and they're like, we love Spam. So these are some Spam varieties you can find in Hawaii, Korea, Guam, the Philippines. And the reason why is because when these soldiers went to these countries during World War II and the Korean War, the locals saw it as just another American import, like chocolate or cigarettes or anything else that was brought in by the military. They didn't see it as wartime food because they just purely saw it as an American import. It was a neutral, it had no stigma. And then also meat was scarce, so this became like a precious product. And it also wasn't sold in those countries. So a lot of the time, soldiers would trade it in through a black market for local goods, and it became this precious commodity because it's like, oh, cool, I got my hands on a can of Spam, and and it tastes good. All right. So in the Philippines, I'll have Spam salog. It's like Spam fried rice with some egg. It's breakfast. In Guam, they have this chamorro dish. The chamorro people are like the native people of Guam. It's almost like a ceviche, but with Spam. And then in Okinawa, they have champuru, which is kind of a stir-fried Spam with like local veggies and tofu sometimes. And then in Hawaii, which I didn't know that was the Hawaii state flag, but it is. And they have spam musubi, which is like a spam rice roll. And if you go to any like 7-Eleven or McDonald's, Burger King, wherever, you'll see spam on the menu. Hawaiians really like it. Like I have cousins living in Hawaii, I used to visit them every summer, and they would actually say like, oh, spam, that's not poor people meat, like Treat is poor people's spam. And Treat was like another canned meat company, you know? So it's like a whole nother level. And then in Korea, so I'm Korean American. In Korea, we eat it in a couple different ways. Today I made spam fried rice. It's kind of like an all Asian dish, really. Like you'll find it everywhere. But in Korea specifically, we also have spam kimbap, which is in like that lower left corner. And it's kind of like a sushi roll, but with spam, daikon, spinach, carrots, cucumber, sometimes. And I made that, so that's not a picture. And part of my performance, actually, I used kimbap in it, which I'll talk about. And then jjigae on the top is this spicy kimchi chili stew with spam. Sometimes there's ramen in it, Vienna sausages. Sometimes you'll find chili beans in it, American cheese sometimes, and basically every Korean restaurant will have it. If you go to any Korean restaurant that has like, you know, a basic Korean menu, you'll find it under jjigae. Sometimes the ingredients won't list everything that's on it. It's also called army stew. It translates to army stew, jjigae. It's like army-based stew, basically. So next time you go to a Korean restaurant, go look for it. It's there. And the reason why it's called army stew is because people who used to work in the cafeterias at the army bases would kind of get the leftovers and then mix it with local ingredients to make this. So it was really a food out of necessity. And then people continued to make it in like locally when they would buy spam from like black market. But yeah, because it still tastes good. It's a lot of like college kids who eat it. Anthony Bourdain has a special where he like encourages Anderson Cooper to have it and explains the history. And Anderson Cooper, you know, being like a little high-strung man, is very like disgusted by the idea, and then in the end realizes it's actually pretty good. So there's a reason why people still eat it. And I just wanted to show you a Korean ad of spam, just to show you the difference in marketing.
올해도 정성을 다해 준비했습니다. 받는 사람도 그 가치를 아는 선물. 스팸 선물 세트.
Yeah, so as you can see, spam is like actually they sell gift sets, you know, during the holidays you can give it. It's actually like a nice product. And in Korea, they actually CJ is a food conglomerate. They manufacture spam on their own. They bought the license for it like in the 80s, and so they have flavors that we don't have in the U.S. and it's totally theirs. So Korea has a whole other operating team. There we go. Okay, so I was very inspired by all this, and this is a watercolor painting of spam that I made a long time ago. So this is my, I like wrote a college paper on spam. It's always been on my mind. This is proof of it. I sat there painting a can, and if you compare, it's pretty good. And I'm actually like primarily a visual artist, so I create objects. This is like a paper mache pig mask that I made that was part of the performance. So I sculpt, I paint, and the way I got into theater is I sculpted, then the sculptures became like installations, then I would perform, like do performance art and use the installations as sets, and then I started making pieces where I was like, well actually I need like changes in lighting, and I need sound, and I have to do some storytelling, so I was like, I need this in the theater. So that's why this became a theater project, but I can see different iterations of this project in like gallery spaces or house settings or kitchens or wherever. It's kind of versatile, but what I'll show you today is the stage performance. So this is like early process, just sort of sketching out what I kind of wanted. Initially, I thought that I'd want to make 3 masks because the Hormel girls, they actually had this performance where they would be like farm animals. And so there's a pig and a lamb and a cow, and they'd like do-si-do. And it was part of the Hormel logo. It was a pig, lamb, and a cow. That was all over their white caravan. So this is how I pictured them in these army green shirt dresses, and I also built a TV set which, has actually a desktop computer that I put into a paper mache TV, and it worked. So this is what it actually. I'll show you some of the ways I made it, but this is the pig mask in action with the Hormel girl. It was part of the performance, and then. This is, sorry, we had it from this. Here we go. Just drag it here. Okay, so this is my TV set I made. Yeah, so as you can see, this is all paper mache, and it's a shell that I just shoved into a computer. So everything I do is like pretty DIY, but I call it like refined DIY. Oh my gosh, we're in this forever. There we go. All right. Oh no. Hold on. I think I'm just trying to figure out this projector setup. Back here. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay. We go. Okay. And then I made this giant Spam can as well as part of the performance, which is actually just a plastic storage bin that I converted into like a hand-painted Spam can. And inside I made this like oobless slime so I basically flipped the entire can over, and there's this giant pink blob that I play with, and then it kind of like oozes and melts down. So actually, I brought some flubber slime from like a clean batch. I made a new batch. So if you'd like, they're $5 and everything goes for performance. But if you open it, it's like basically Elmer's glue. There's like borax and a little bit of cornstarch, some dye, and it creates this like oozy texture. This will stay good for months in your fridge if you keep it there, but it's a nice texture, and if you warm it up in your hands, it starts oozing. So this is my so a lot of like kids are obsessed with it. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, you can get it for your kids. Kids like this. It's non-toxic, They shouldn't eat it, but, yeah. So, yeah, if you warm it up, it'll start stretching out a bit. And there's a whole slime community on YouTube of just children, teenagers, and adults just, making their own slimes. So if you want a slime, it's there. And this is just, I thought it was funny. So this is a video of me making some slime. And it doesn't get icky. Just, see, there we go. So even though I got it all over the stage floor, it just lifts right up, and no one was angry with me in the theater. These are my Hormel girls. They opened the show, and as you can see, they have the aura of military presence. And the way we started the show is they'd sing this patriotic song about Spam, and they kind of act as my foil in the performance. I kind of see them as a these caricatures that are based on the real life Hormel girls, but are a little bit are more flattened to just represent American capitalism and consumerism. And so they're these like overly sweet, almost like suspicious characters that act as a foil to my personal story. And Matt Chilton, who's my composer and sound designer. Oh, welcome. You can hang out if you want. We have free food, shrimp fried rice.
Good, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, cool. Just want to make you feel welcome. So he actually wrote original music and lyrics for them, and as you can see, all the lyrics, the words are backronyms for spam. So shining ports and awesome machines, like the whole thing is like that. And he actually purchased a World War II era instrument that soldiers used, and it's this foldable reed organ that folds into a suitcase, and he uses that during the show. He plays that. So this is rehearsal footage. He doesn't wear the pig mask in the performance, but we're just fooling around. And these are the Hormel girls kind of just hanging out. Yeah, so he uses that during performance. And in sort of like the middle of our show, we have a raffle. Before people come into the theater, we have these raffle tickets we give out, and then in the middle of it, the Hormel girls do this little game show, and this is the winner for one of our performances. He had like a spam gift set. And it's kind of a reference to kind of like the gamified, marketing that the Hormel girls had, And so now I come in, and a lot of my work has to do with like oral histories, and it's autobiographical as well. It's sort of this part surreal show, but also there's like a level of like truth to it, and so all my stories are completely nonfiction in the show, and the sort of surreal Hormel girl situation is complements that history. And this is a shadow play I do in the middle of it, and I'm basically live translating my grandma's original recordings of her talking about the Korean War, and the first time she had spam, because the first time she had spam was actually from an American soldier. So this is just a bit of her speaking. I don't know if anyone in here knows Korean, but I just wanted to share. So when I first did spam, it was when I took refuge. The Americans gave it to us. That's why we ate it. The first time I ate it, I just opened the can and started it. It was so delicious. Yeah. So basically, then she talks about how, during the war she ate it that way because the American statements were, but after she started seeing it in people's stores. So you go into a store and then go into the back, and I guess in Chinatown, if you see like Louis Vuitton bootlegs in the back of the store, it was like that. So you could like go in and then find hidden spam, and so she talks about how she ate it, and then also talks about kind of her traumas during the war, and she took refuge because her house burned, and my grandma's actually from the north, and so is my dad's part of the family. So a lot of the show, as it expands and develops, is going to be about that migration. And then another part of the show is to talk about my upbringing. And I'm developing a series of monologues that are based on memories I associate with specific Spam dishes. For a lot of Asian Americans, Spam is a food of nostalgia, something they associate with childhood because, you know, the only reason they ate it was because their parents gave it to them, right? So when I was growing up, like, I didn't think Spam was weird until I started talking to my non-Korean friends, and they were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, you're not, like, living in a trailer, like, why are you eating Spam?" So it was always this, like, hidden guilty pleasure of mine. But I associate, for instance, like the Spam kimbap, those rice rolls I showed you, I associate that with church picnics. I was born in Brooklyn, in Gravesend. I grew up in Gravesend, and I went to a Korean mass in Bensonhurst called St. Augustine's. That was a church. And during these church picnics, everyone would bring food, and Spam kimbap was like, a Spam kimbap is a standard picnic food. It's like finger food that you don't need to eat cold. And so it brings up a lot of memories of me growing up Catholic, and which I no longer am practicing. Though I'm at church right now.
Because you're becoming a Christ.
Right. Oh, that's true. You're right. So yeah, but my mom's at church. And, yeah, so I talk about that. But I also through this and you can see the TV actually. So during my monologue, the TV kind of mirrors what I'm saying. So at this point, I'm talking about how my house had a lot of religious imagery. Like we had paintings of, you know, Jesus Christ like hanging on the cross. And so I found some from the Passion of Christ, and so that's playing on TV. So I use that as kind of like a storytelling method, but it's through monologue. And I mean, I eat kimbap during this. There's like a karaoke lunchbox in the back where I do that. And then, you know, associated with church, like my family actually went because when they first immigrated, they didn't know a lot of Korean people, and in Brooklyn there's just not a lot of Korean people, especially like they came in during the 70s. So for them, when they found Korean mass, it was a way for them to kind of connect with all of like the disparate Korean communities that would come together every Sunday, and it was a way to socialize. And so through this, I kind of talk about their integration process as well, and sort of like assimilating and trying to find community. And all of this, like, I connect to, you know, Spam as this metaphor for what it means to grow up here. Is this like all-American product that's, you know, stigmatized here, but was brought to Asia, and then now we moved here and we eat it for nostalgic purposes. You know, like there's this whole thing. So that's where the monologues come in. And at the end of this, along with, you know, my methods of collecting oral histories, I included a lullaby from my mother. So this is just a short clip of her singing a song about heartbreak. So it's quite somber. I mean, a lot of the piece is also about how, you know, my mom's religious community helped her through my parents kind of fighting a lot, and, you know, eventually they separated. And so that lullaby kind of is a somber moment. And then right after, the Hormel girls kick in and like sing this jolly song about Spam, you know? So that's kind of how I juxtapose it. And then at the very end of the performance, I always cook some Spam and people in the audience so they can try it. So cooking's always like been a part of my process. So in addition to the performances, I have these workshops. This was at the Asian American Arts Alliance in DUMBO. I also did one at a Korean gallery called Gallery Madison Park.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you. So during these, we have these. We also do storytelling. So these are some thoughts on Spam that you can kind of flip through. I have them on these Spam-shaped index cards, and a lot of people wrote and then shared you know, their experiences with Spam here. And if you want, there's a lot of blank cards here, and sometimes if you want to share your thoughts and add it on. And during and after performances, also eventually when we have enough of donation, you can contribute to that. But yeah, a lot of great stories came out of it because, again, as I said before, baby boomers have a very specific relationship to spam. Veterans have a very specific relationship to spam. A lot of Asian Americans, some people hate it, so they wrote about that. And like during natural disasters, people eat it. So like I had someone from Jamaica come and say they had spam every time there was a hurricane, And there was one very emotional story we heard from someone who grew up in the Philippines, and she actually said the first time she had spam was during when she moved to America because her family was it was too expensive for her family to afford spam in the Philippines. Like middle class and upper class can afford it, but not the lower. So it's actually seen like as a luxury food there. So she got very emotional kind of thinking about that and the meaning of that and how when she came here and first had it, like she realized that it was poor people food here, so it's like a double insult. But and then you can see people writing stories. And these events were sponsored by Korean restaurants. One was Inta, which is in Gowanus actually, and one was we had a couple. We had South Korean Bistro, Punjin, Nakabara, which is in Koreatown. So there's a lot of community support. And then we had some people contribute spam dishes. So someone brought musubi, that's the last one because it's a hit. And then one person got really passionate. She's a graphic designer, and she wrote out her mom's fried rice recipe and brought in fried rice, and it was really, really wonderful. So there's a community aspect to it. So yeah, that's my work. You can continue eating, ask me questions, or you can read through these stories. You can contribute through pens. You can buy fluffy slime. You can put on the pig mask. So yeah, thank you for coming, and I hope you learned a bit about spam. Thank you. Cool.
Yes.
Thanks. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And this is like a condensed thing because the workshop's going to like all this other stuff. Yeah.
So you celebrated
Yeah. It's so funny. There's actually an even more insane one from the Philippines where it's like a full Filipino pop band, and they're like they have this dance routine, and it's not like a high budget commercial.
Yeah.
It's really so I recommend that commercial. Yeah.
I mean, the rest are fine.
So
So we had our first work in progress showing at the Producers Club. Yes, we had two showings for that. We did a scene, the shadow play scene. We developed sort of way up our festival at Jack. And then the workshops we did at Gallery Madison Park, Asian American Arts Alliance. And we're basically continuing on to, for the future, it's an ongoing project. We have like a whole other slew of scenes that we want to incorporate. And so Jake Cameron, the creative director, joined after watching our work in progress and so it's probably going to double in length than what we already have, we're just refining. So we're always looking for collaborators and like opportunities to show. And again, like because it's a pretty dynamic show, and I'm kind of working in a multidisciplinary format. I'm also, like our team is very familiar with like showing the project in other spaces, including like visual arts and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, we kind of see it branching out into different ways, but the core of the mission is to share like Asian and Asian American stories, and I guess war history and American history through spam. And so as it develops, we're also going to start incorporating some of the stories that we've had, which I can pass around if you want to read some of them, or add to it. There's pens. But we want to add those voices to the room too, because there's a lot of connecting like struggles and passions that people have when they in the Asian diaspora as well. So it's using Spam Week. It's a way to talk about things like immigration or colonization, and also there's like a very ambivalent feeling that people have when it comes to Spam. Like in Guam, the obesity rates are really high. So also in the Philippines, because of the reliance of imported processed foods. So there is like a decolonizing food movement where people are trying to like go back to agricultural methods to have food. And so, but Spam also is this it's this whole like push and pull, and definitely like the project is not a love story for Spam. There's an appreciation, but there's also like a criticism.
Yeah. And like American favorite potato salad in like Gonjan. I think is that similar? And it's like the GI brought it over, and now it's
I'm not sure. I
wouldn't
be surprised.
Yeah.
Like maybe that might just be American influence. I don't think it would be GI only because like mayonnaise is pretty there's a spoilage, so you know I don't think it would have been from that history, but definitely it's an American influence.
Right.
And if people want to see the big mouse too, it's pretty fun.
It's really great.
It's a good photo op.
Yeah.
If you really
Bye-bye. Thank you much.
Thanks. And then if we're interested in seeing the show as it progresses, do you have like a newsletter on your website? or how-
yeah, I have a newsletter on the website,
Okay.
and then you can also follow the social media pages, and I'll post like Facebook events and stuff.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Oh yeah, there's a fried rice.
That one's
veggie
vegan?
one. The one
Yeah.
the small one.
Okay.
That's sharing, yeah. The Tupperware.
Yeah, it's vegan?
Yeah, it's vegan.
Okay.
It's not gluten free though, because there's soy sauce.
I just know sometimes it has egg, right?
No, there's no egg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm definitely not.
Is it hot? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So yeah, it was also super fascinating because we were just talking and saying, now it's even better.
Oh, yeah.
You kind of like one of the girls.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel like I should get a cut from Carmel. Yeah, no, I think like the content of what I'm exploring is not a really fun story, and
Right, no.
yeah, and also we did approach them because when I was doing my research, I found a playwright that had a show called The Carmel Girls that they performed, and they performed in Austin, Minnesota. So I reached out to the playwright, and she actually works with the archives of Carmel Spam Museum, and said that they had shared all this content without like any restrictions. She didn't sign a contract. They were really open about it, and that was in the early 2000s. So I reached out to the archives department, explaining that I was recommended to them then, and their whole team had shifted. Everyone else retired, and it was very, very strict and very defensive. And they said that I needed to talk to the legal team and sign a contract, and they were like, yeah.
These archives for it.
Right.
It's already so funny that there's a Spam museum, you know?
Right. Yeah, I don't know, but that's okay. I mean, in the end, like, I just kind of ghosted them. But you know, at the time, my working title was SpamIM. And so they really freaked out, and they were like, well, that's like SpamIM from Dr. Seuss and then like literally the person wrote like, Dr. Seuss is very litigious, and like we're not comfortable with this, and I was like, okay, like so I mean, especially across American
He's not alive anymore.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's just, I guess the company, I don't know.
Random House.
Yeah, Random House. But they wrote like, Dr. Seuss is very litigious. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. It just means that it'll work for you.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've had spam gets pretty easily into something like that. Things or
Oh, yes. The Cornwall is notorious.
So can you just get a ride to get there? And then I
from
read
that
that
they
data.
never had the odds, but they continue doing it. Like one of their famous ones is, you know, when they tried to trademark spam word and they
Right.
lost.
Yeah.
I mean, they said that it's never science.
And then on the
Like,
data.
now it's just.
Because I have to do the
Well, because yeah, it was just, you know, there's too many uses, and that's why they analyze it. So, that's why also I don't refer to my show as spam. Yeah, but this is a common background, and they didn't add it, so it's and it's
Yeah, you
relevant
can find
to,
them in the back.
but and they also try to sue Jim Henson, like it's a company, because there was like one small role someone had in their puppet's name is like Spam Man or something, and there's a pig. Yeah, and then of course like no, this is fine. So they lost that.
We're actually in a really weird place because spam is their product. And not have the name does not benefit from some of this. It's weird. I'm not saying they're right, it's just a weird thing.
Right. I mean, they have the trademark for, you know, all capitalized.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but they're trying to sue people that just talk about it, which is the issue. Like, and I think part of it is because, one, it's, you know, Cornell's a huge conglomerate. They actually own Apple Aggregate. Is that the organic, like, food, the deli jams and stuff? Is that Applegate? That's the brand. Yeah, they own that. They own a bunch of products, so you know they're just like a huge corporation that cares about their branding. So someone bringing up like your and your listeners probably that. Something they want. Yeah. So the reason why is because that Monty Python sketch. Internet trolls started using lines from that sketch to flood forums to literally like silence people. So they would just keep copy pasting it and flooding the forums with that, and so that became a point of like spamming.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting. I did not think I associated with people's junk.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the reason why they flooded it with that too is that spam is repetitive. Like the whole sketch was about how you can't get away from spam. So that repetition then became like a way for them to troll forums, and then that became a way to talk about just like a lot of advertising or any emails that come in repetition.
Yeah.
So it's funny because like now people associate it with like no one eats spam, but before it was actually everyone eats spam and people eat too much all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Straight the other direction.
So, but just now, like I do it like that. I'm still so confused. Even if it's my hand, it's, you know, how could it like just stay all just edible for so long?
Yeah. So well, actually, Cornwall, the history of there's a lot of good stuff there. And then I saw you writing one. Cool, yay.
Yeah. I'm Chinese American, so my family didn't use this. It's a Chinese history, like American much. But I grew up in the Bay Area, and Spam was really was a food that grew to the south of it. Pay money for like sports tours, concert tickets, like this movie in the morning. So I'm always doing sort of contraband, basically.
Black market.
Yeah. So I feel like this is very nostalgic for me.
Yeah, nice. Glad. Yeah, actually, the person who made the Spam Suzuki's when I showed like the last one, he was saying that he sold it at school too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, he's from Hawaii. He's like,
Yeah, like
my mom would make me a bunch and like say like, yeah, share it with your friends, and then he would go and sell it at school. Like pimp out his mom's labor.
Not exactly what you meant.
Yeah, she's like, this is my way of giving back, like paying for his guilt, providing free Spam for workshop. So yeah, and like as I develop new scenes for it, I think one of the monologues will take place in Hawaii and revolve around Spam Suzuki, the values you go there every season. Yeah, but yeah, I feel like so many people have like very specific, strong associations with this to that, as you said. One of my favorite stories is there's someone who's, I think, in like Hong Kong or something, I'm studying about, and he was Thanksgiving. So he bought like the only turkey he found, because like Asian people don't really eat turkey. He found a turkey Spam and like just stared at it and couldn't open it because he was just so sad about missing Thanksgiving. But yeah, turkey Spam is actually popular in like Muslim countries since you can't eat pork. Yeah, like in Indonesia.
So is it now that they actually export more Spam than India?
Oh yeah, no, the biggest consumers for Spam are in all the countries that I spoke about. So in the U.S., it's really just Hawaii that's popular. And again, it's because there's a huge military presence there, you know? And in Guam, that's the highest consumer per capita. So it averages onto like 16 cans of person per year. That's a lot. And then in the Philippines, it's like No. Yes. The Philippines is like 6 cans per person a year. So it's really a lot.
And then the price of it compared to here, where it's really cheap, is it there also kind of like?
It's actually not cheap here. It's around each can, like considering other meats you can buy, each can of Spam is around $4. Yeah, $4 or $5. So yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, I mean, at least you don't have to throw it away, right? We should actually can all of it.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's a lot to eat. Like, you probably should have, like, maybe, the way I like it is I slice it really thin and then maybe have, like, eggs. Most people eat it that way. So you kind of have it roasted. But yeah, you wouldn't eat an entire pan in one sitting. That would get very thirsty and feel nauseated. Yeah. But there's a common misconception that you should just eat out of a can, which you can do, but it's like eating hot dogs out of the freezer. You can do it. It's just no one eats it that way. It's gross.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But people commonly think that you're supposed to just like eat out of a can. They're like, oh, a can like Spam is disgusting. It's like, no, you cook it.
It's funny. The amount of other things that we have in hands. Right. It's like when you sort of making vegetables and you know something like
Or people have like chili.
yeah, no, soups and they found certain cans. And to think that you would eat this one
And then
and
there's
not any
chicken soups.
There's cold cuts. Very similar. And so is like egg or something.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much more cans. This is the one I mean, obviously.
Yeah, and it's because of
huge
all that
history.
history.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's, I don't know, everyone has kind of lost that part.
Yeah. And it's all just because of the history.
Yeah.
Like, the associations people made with it. And now it's just gone so far that people who don't know that history only have held on to the fact that people don't like it. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So now, like, Spam's new marketing slogan is "Don't knock it till you try it," and they're trying to get people back into it. It's still a struggle here. They have no problems in Asia.
So where do they allow companies in Asia then? Or is it all the
Yes, the company in Korea manufactures it on their own. They bought the license for it.
Okay, so they have their own ambulance and their own meat and their own
Yeah.
hands.
So they have the same recipe.
Right.
They have different flavors though that we don't have. And they also sell like a really big can of Spam. You can get it this big. So
That's for the Thanksgiving dinner.
right. Lots and lots.
The
of
whole
Spam.
turkey.
Yeah. And then they have those fancy gift sets, which we don't have.
Right.
So, thanks for following the project, and you can follow it through the website. And also, if you do want to submit a story, we also have like an online